Welcome back to another week of the Academy of Shem and Aver. I am Rabbi David Katz. For anybody who is new to the classes, we're coming to the end of our cycle of 30 classes. We've done 28. We're on 29 today, and next week will be the finishing product of all 30 classes, which will be a composite of the Academy of Shem and Aver, with basically the knowledge going back to Shem. And again, our topics have been covered up to date. There's been Shem, a little bit of Noah, Jethro, the Noahide Aravna, who was the Noahide present on the Temple Mount with King David, when King David purchased from Aravna the site that would eventually become the Holy of Holies. And we covered the concept of the Rambam's letter, which is the nature of truth, which, when we're learning Torah in the original Hebrew, knowledge of the truth becomes relevant. So therefore we have the Aver aspect, the grandson of Shem, when as a weighing in together with Shem and Noah. And then we culminated basically on the aspect of names, that Noahides have a history of the concept of a name. And that's where I want to focus on today. And again, this is really exciting what I found, and I had no intentions of doing this today. I was planning on basically going over something that we'll do in the near future about the concept of 30 additional commandments that will, in the Messianic age, be given over to the Noahides. That the scope of the 30 commandments given will basically be the breadth of the entire Torah, so that the entire Torah will become relevant and practical and applicable to the Noahide nations. So that's a teaser for next week. We'll probably end, I'm hoping, on the 30th class with that knowledge. And that will be derived from the tractate of the Talmud called Chulin. So when I was going to do that today, in my own personal learning that I'm doing at home, I decided that I wanted to get into a certain area of study, which maybe some of you are familiar with, called Agadata in Midrash. The Midrash is basically works that are on the level of the Talmud in terms of authenticity and the level of the years that it was written, in the time period called the Tanoim. In basic Torah history, what you have are at the beginning of time from Adam all the way through Shem. Then you have Abraham all the way through Moses to the end of the Torah. Then you have the time period of the Judges, and then the kings David and Solomon and throughout the First Temple. Then you have the 70-year exile, Second Temple period, which was 400 plus years. The story of Hanukkah and the Greek Empire came to power during the Second Temple era. Then the temple was destroyed for the second time, which gave birth to our time period of the Midrash called the Tanoim. The Tanoim authored the Midrash, they authored the Mishnah, the written law, written oral law. And just to let it be known, after the sealing of the oral law, there was a time period called the Amoraim. And this is the sages of the Talmud who discussed the Mishnah, the oral law. On the completion of the Amoraim, the Talmud was sealed, and there was what was called the Gaonim, the first people who to offer a commentary to the Talmud, and then there were the Rishonim, which means the first ones, literally. And this was like the Rambam and Rashi. This is the medieval commentators to the Torah, and then there was the last 500 years of creation until now, which is called the Achronim, the last ones. This was the Baal Shem Tov and Chassidus, the Vilna Gaon, all the way from about the year 1500 until the contemporary rabbis of today. Some say that the era of the Achronim has actually ended, which begs a tremendous question. Where do we go now if the Achronim are over? Is it the Messianic era, or is there yet another time period to close out the 6,000 years of creation? Upon which a rabbi today, even like myself, would be considered the beginning of the next era. Because the rabbis today are really not considered Achronim. Because the Achronim were still a tremendous level, and there's been a decline in the generations, basically since World War II. And people like the Lubavitcher Rebbe and other luminaries such as Rav Moshe Feinstein, Kabbalists such as Rav Kaduri, famous rabbis, maybe you'll hear the names of them, that they died around the 80s or 90s. That was really the closing of the Achronim. So in the new millennium, that's really something new. We're hoping it's the era of Mashiach, but possibly... One second.